Alright, so in the previous video we set up the project, so in this video we're going to be able to actually get into some code. So in this video we're actually going to set up the actual sign up page for the actual applications. Hold on just one second. I am offering free coaching to those of you who need help in JavaScript development, Flutter development, and most front-end or full-stack JavaScript frameworks. If you're not opposed to receiving some help, message me through Discord at 8dang. I'll be sure to include my tag below, but remember, I might not be able to help with everything, but I'll try my best. But with that out of the way, let's get back into the video. So the first thing we're going to do is open up the terminal and run the command npm run dev. So then once it's running, we can close the terminal. And then we'll open up the source folder, and inside the app folder, let's remove the favicon.ico. And inside the globals.css, all we're going to do is just remove all the default styles. But we're going to keep these 3 lines for Tailwind. So we're just going to press save, and then we can close this. So then in the page.tsx, we're going to remove this image import, and then we're going to remove all of this right here. So then once we deleted everything we needed to do, we're going to go to the source folder and we're going to create a new folder called auth. And then here we're going to create a new file called index.ts. So the first thing we're going to do is import the necessary modules, and then we're going to create a user schema for the first function we're going to create. So this first function we're going to create is going to take in 3 parameters. One is going to be the name, one is going to be the email, and one is going to be the password. And obviously we're going to use this information to create a user. So then we're going to create a create user function that takes in the form data, and then we're going to parse the data through the create user schema. So then we're going to initialize a client for the PostgreSQL, and then we're going to connect the client, and then we're going to create a try catch block once it's connected, and then we're going to run a query saying that we want to insert a user that has these values. So we're going to order them by this first operation, which is going to be this. So this first operation is going to be an insert operation, and the first thing we're going to insert is a random UUID from the crypto hash. And then we're going to insert a data.name, a data.email, and also a data.password. And these all go in their respective locations right here. And you can see them right here. So then once we've inserted it, we could just say that we want to disconnect from the client. But if there is any error, we want to disconnect from the client anyway. So then we're going to throw the error if there is one. And then we're going to create a new form data element. And then we're going to append the email and password so we can actually log in to the session that we just created. So then we're going to call this create session function and pass in the form data that we created right now. And let's create the create session function right now. So the first thing we're going to do is create a schema for this create session. So obviously, like here, we're going to have 2 properties. One is going to be an email and one is going to be a password. And obviously the passwords have at least 8 characters in length. So then let's create the actual create session function. And then we're going to actually parse the data from the form data object right here. So then we're going to get a crypto token, which this crypto is just like a random UUID. It's just a unique string that we could use for a variety of reasons. Then we're going to connect to the custom auth database, and then we're going to wait for it to connect. So then we're going to actually get the user. So we're actually going to get the UID. So you see, we're going to get the unique ID from the user that has the email that matches to this and the password that matches to this. So you can see we're passing in data.email and data.password, and then we're actually getting the user row that we've queried. And then we're saying that if it doesn't exist, we say that the user was not found. And then if it does exist, we're just getting the user ID and we're validating it. And now we're actually selecting from the sessions, and we're checking to see if a session actually is already made to that specific user. So if a session with the same UID that we just referenced does exist, then we have to actually delete that session. But if it doesn't, we're going to just insert a new session using the token and the user ID right here. You can see that we're passing in the UID and token in that order. And then we're just going to remove the connection we have to the client. So then if there is an error, we're going to end the connection to the client anyways. And then we're just going to throw the error. And once everything's said and done, we're just going to return the token that we created up here. And that token is the one we use to create the session for the user. So then we can actually save and then close this file. So then we open up the layout.tsx file. So then the first thing we're going to do is remove this metadata tag. And let's remove the import to metadata. And then we import link from next/link. So then we're going to remove this children tag right here. So then the first thing we're going to do is just create a div that's going to contain the actual content. And then in here, we're just going to import the children instead of just directly inside the body. And then below, we're going to create a section that's going to contain the links to to navigate throughout the whole page. So then the first one is going to be the home page. The next one is going to be the sign up page. And you can see that we're customizing these links using the class name property and some Tailwind CSS styles. So then the third one is going to be the login link. And the fourth one is going to be account. By the way, you can find all this link in the GitHub link in the description and check out what I have for you there. So then once you're done with this, you could close this file. And then let's open up the page.tsx file. So then we could remove all these styles. So then inside this main, we're going to create a header. And then we're just going to create the metadata for this page. Let's just import metadata like that. So then we're going to say that the title of this page is just home. So then we can close this file. And then let's create a new folder inside the app folder called sign up. And then in here, we could create a page.tsx file. So then in the sign up folder, we're going to create an action.tsx file, actions.ts file. So then the first thing we're going to do is mark this file as a server file. And then we're going to import the create user function from the auth folder that we created. And then we're also going to import Zod error. And then we're going to create the function action. So then it's going to take up two parameters. One is going to be underscore, which we're not going to use. And the other one is going to be the actual form data that's going to get passed to this function. So then we're going to create a try catch block. And the result, we're going to get the result from calling the create user function that we have here. And then we're just going to set the cookie to the token. So then we're just going to set a token cookie, and it's just going to be the result right here. You can see if we hover over it, this result is a string. And if there is any errors, we're just going to display the errors like so. Obviously, nothing too fancy. And if everything goes according to plan, we're just going to redirect the user back to slash. By the way, these actions are somewhat like Svelte actions in the way that they run only on the server and you're able to call them on the client. So then we can save this file and then we can close it. And then we're going to create a new file inside the signup folder called submit button.tsx. So then the first thing we're going to do is mark this file as a client file, and then we're going to import use form status from React DOM. And then we're going to create a function. We're going to export a default function called submit button, and then we're going to get the sign up status from use form status. And then we're just going to return a simple button with some styles applied to it. By the way, you can find the GitHub code in the description. And then we're just going to set the tab index and disabled properties like so. If the form is still sending, we're just going to say it's loading. And if it isn't, we're just going to say sign up. So we can save this file and then we can close it. And in here, we can create a new file called form.tsx. So then the first thing we're going to do is set this file as a client file, obviously, because we're going to use some client APIs. And in Next.js, the reason we have to set the file as client is because we want to make sure that Next.js knows that we are going to use some client APIs. And what I mean by this is just using some custom hooks, etc. So then we're going to import all the necessary things that we need. And then we're just going to create a default form right here. And then we're just going to use this hook from React DOM saying that we actually want to get access to the form action and we actually want to get some state on this action. So all this does is just gives us a reference to a function that allows us to call this sign up action from the server and also the state of this function. So then we're just going to return a simple form with the action set to action and some simple styles applied to it. And then we're going to create a div right here with some simple styles applied to it as well. And this div is just going to contain a bunch of inputs. And the first input is going to be the name right here. The next one is going to be the email. And the last one is going to be password. You can see that they're all required. And then we're going to create a state.error. So if there is an error, we're going to display a paragraph showing the error of the state. And if there isn't, we're just going to say null. So we're not going to really show anything. So then we're just going to display the submit button, which we created a second ago. And then we can save this file. So then inside the signup folder, we're going to create one last file called page.tsx. So then we're going to import all the necessary things. And then you see that we're importing a new function from the auth folder that we created. So in a second, we're going to create this function right now. So then we're actually going to set the metadata for this page. So we're going to say that the title of this page is going to be sign up. And then we're going to create an asynchronous function. And the reason we create we can actually set this component to asynchronous is because this is going to run on the back end. So then we're going to create a user. And then we're going to create a try catch block saying that if we have the token for the user, so the token for the actual user, and if the token doesn't exist, we just throw a new error. But if it does, we're going to get the user, right here. So this function allows us to get a user. And if the user exists, so then if we have an error, we're just going to throw the error. We're just going to log the error. And then if the user exists, we're going to redirect the user to the account page. So what this just means is that if they are logged in, we're going to redirect them to the account page. So all this does is just checks if the user is logged in. So then the next thing we're going to do is just return a div with a display of grid. And then here, we're going to create a main right there. And then we're going to create a header inside of this main function, and then it's going to contain an h1 and also a paragraph tag with some dummy text. So this isn't really important to the actual form of the application, but mainly the logic is stored inside this form function. So then we could actually press save, and then we could close this file, and then let's open up the index.ts file inside the auth folder. So then we're going to create a user schema right here so we can actually validate the data of the actual return of this function that we're going to create. So obviously the user, we're not going to expose the password, so we're not going to say that we actually want to show the password. We're just going to say that the user is going to have a name and an email. So then we're going to create an actual get user function, and it's going to take in a token, which is going to be a string. Usually the tokens are the things that are returned right here. So then we're going to create a client right here and connect to it. And then we're going to say that the user data is a type of any. And then we're going to create a try catch block saying that we actually want to get the user. We actually want to get the user ID of the session that corresponds with the token. And once we get the user ID of the session that corresponds with the token, we validate to see if it actually exists. And then we get the user ID, check if it actually is valid. And then we query that UID saying that we want to get the user whose UID matches with the UID we got. And then we're just going to make sure to validate and check to see if this user data is actually valid. And then if there is any error, we're just going to throw the error and end the connection to the Postgres server. And then we're going to say if the user data does not exist, we're going to say that the user is not found. And when it's all said and done, we're just going to return the user schema, parsing the user data, which is just going to allow us to actually get the data in a typed way. So we're actually going to make sure that we validate the user using Zod. So then we can actually save the file, and then we can close it. And then we're going to open up the terminal and open up HTTP localhost 3000. So then the first thing you should see is a home right here. The first thing you should see is this right here saying home. And then you should see 4 links on the bottom. 2 of them should not work. The login one should take you to a blank page right there. And then the account page should take you to 404 not found. But if you go to sign up page, you can see that it's sign up and there's a form in the middle of the screen and it has some text. So then let's create an account. Let's say John Doe, and let's say john.doe@email.com. And then for the password, just gonna say test. And then once we created it, you see that we're redirected to the account page. And if you actually want to see if we actually created a user, we can go to the terminal and we could actually open up the instance for the custom auth database. So run this command psql custom auth, and then we're going to say select in all caps, remember all caps, select star from users. So then you see we created a user with the password of test, with the email of John Doe, with the name of John Doe, and you see we created a user ID. And then just to see this, we're going to select star from sessions. So we're going to actually see if the user has a session. So you see that our token is completely different than the UID, but the UID is actually corresponding with the UID of the user. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys think that PostgreSQL is actually really interesting. I hope you guys actually find the love for the technologies as I do. I hope this video served you value. Thank you guys for watching.